All right, John. Hey, I'm going to rock this thing. Okay. So you're against drugs, right?
Yeah, basically the devastation that it has on individuals in the community.
And I was reminded this weekend when they came out with a czar.
We had a drug czar. What happened was there was a congressional statute that created the Office of National Drug Control Policy, created a drug czar that was really over 13 different budgets under the cabinet.
And did drugs get better or worse under the drug czar?
Well, it's always a two-edged sword. Drugs did get better under the drug czar. The peak of drug abuse in the United States was 1978. We had close to 40 million people current users, and under that, it dropped it down to about half, which is actually a good positive result when you look at other public health diseases. Have we really reduced heart disease or cancer by 50% over the same period of time? No. But there's also, and what we need to understand is there were some unintended results that we need to take a look at in terms of drug policy and reform some of those.
John, most of my audience is entrepreneurs, business owners, self-employed people. They're interested in doing better. And
I understand that people are tired of the quote-unquote war on drugs and all that, but do we really throw out the baby with the bathwater? That, to me, is the issue. Do we need to reform policies? Absolutely. I'm against zero tolerance. I don't think that kids should be expelled from school because they smoked a joint and then go out into the community and learn from gangs and go into that cycle of prison, jail, prison, things like that. I'm also against somebody being arrested for smoking a joint and then not being able to get a scholarship or go to college. These are things that don't help society. But likewise, when we look at some of these legalization bills where it's kind of an unfettered regulation, there really isn't a lot of regulation to it. You look at Colorado, you look at my state of California, there has been some devastating consequences in terms of increased youth use. And that's where we as adults need to be stewards of our children and take a look at what we're doing in terms of laws and how it affects them.
Has the usage increased since the legalization in let's say, Colorado?
Yeah, absolutely. Since legalization of marijuana in Colorado, the youth use rate has doubled. Wow. Emergency room admits have kind of skyrocketed. DUIs have gone down in every area except for marijuana, which has gone up. We've also the thing that concerns me the most because of the issues of commercialization of marijuana, which is point of sales, and we're a capitalistic society, and First Amendment rights, free speech to individuals is also free speech to corporations. They tend to target youth, and that's what's happened in Colorado, where they've marketed these edibles to kids, and the biggest increase in emergency room admits has been those under 5 years old. That's gone up over 200%. Some of those, a couple of them, have come in under cardiac arrest.
Well, wait a minute. You kids are coming in under 5 years old?
Sell gummy bears with high THC laced candies.
But how can you do that? How can you sell gummy bears? I thought we were talking about weed here, smoking weed.
Sure. What not only has weed been genetically altered over the years. So one of the things we have to understand is this is not the Woodstock weed of the 60s where it was 1% THC content back in the 60s.
So that was a good strain of marijuana that a user would be like, oh, yeah, right?
Yeah, that was the good stuff. The Acapulco Gold.
Yeah, exactly.
The Maui Wowie.
Yeah. All the names they would put on it, right?
Right.
And most of mine was just kind of dirty and dry.
The average THC content is 14. The high is 27%. So we're talking almost 30% increase of that. And about the mid 80s, when it was around 5 to 7%, that's when we started to see addiction rates. Then with a new extraction process of some of those cannabinoids, you can get up to 90 to 95% THC content. When you give a child that's laced into candies, then that little heart rate starts going.
Yeah. It was.
Right? And when I was talking to some parents in Colorado, people were saying, well, why does this happen? Can't they put labels on these edibles? And I was so stunned. I said to the mother, do you really believe a 5-year-old can read those labels?
Yeah.
That's not what it's about. It's about access. It's about access.
And how would a kid get the gum?
just look at, if we could pull back just for a second, give me like 30 seconds to
sure.
explain. When you take a look at sound drug policy, what we're trying to do is reduce the use of a drug and the harmful effects on an individual and community. To do that, you're really constricting the availability. Legalizing it increases. So the top drugs of abuse in our youth in the United States: number 1, alcohol; number 2, tobacco; number 3, prescription drug abuse. Marijuana is a distant fourth.
Wow.
What takes a drug up to that level is it's legal. It's therefore available. It's in stores, it's in bars, it's in whatever. Kids can get alcohol from their parents, alcohol cabinet. Kids can get cigarettes from any tobacco shop, where tobacco companies will pay the fines because they need to addict those kids to have their customers in adulthood. So it's all, businesses of addiction look at increasing availability and targeting the youngest populations. And second, they then target the minority populations, like, underserved communities. Because why? Affluent communities don't have money? No. Minorities do, but they don't have the $50,000 to give to the Betty Ford Clinic to get off of it.
Right.
When you take a look at today's marijuana, you take a look at any drug. Any drug has its negative side effects. I don't care whether it's alcohol, prescription drugs, heroin, or marijuana. If you want to talk about, safety of any drug, or you want to talk about problems of a drug, let's take a look at alcohol and look at the cirrhosis of the liver. But if you want to talk about permanent brain change, and we've learned more about marijuana in the last 10 years than the previous 10,000.
Wow.
And one of the latest studies came out from New Zealand with an absolute changing of the brain and a reduction of IQ levels, 8 to 10% average, 8 to 10 points average. So what does that mean? It means that you could go from the top 1/3 of the IQ scale to the bottom 1/3. And in a developing brain, that with the new marijuana is really not, to me, an acceptable position.
So what is Amendment 2 in Florida?
From what I've read, and I'm not here to tell Floridians how to vote, but Amendment 2 is the premise is legalizing marijuana for medicinal use. Unfortunately, there really isn't the control and regulation to be able to really contain that. So in my estimation, it's one of the most permissive drug policies that I've seen in the country.
So if it passes, if people vote yes on it, that means what would happen in Florida?
Well, some of the things that I've looked at is there's no age limit to your amendment, meaning that anybody can get it at any age. So, could a 12, 13, 14-year-old get marijuana under Amendment 2? Yeah, they could. And secondly, and people are saying, well, you got to get it from a doctor. Well, Florida just went through its pill mill debacle. Do you think there are unscrupulous doctors out there? Of course, you've seen that. Will there be unscrupulous doctors in the marijuana industry? Absolutely. Right. So yes, a 12, 13, 14 high school kid could go talk to a pot doc, give them the money, go get marijuana. There's not only age limit, no parental consent, no limit to what they can get. And do you think that some of that marijuana would be diverted to other kids in their peer group? Absolutely. Kind of fait accompli that they're going to eventually approve it, because when you look at Colorado, where it was the majority wanted it, it was well over 50%. The latest Pew polls show that it's going in the opposite direction. It's now under 50%. Had the people from Colorado looked at and what if they knew then what they know now, they would not have voted for it. And I believe the same would happen for Florida and any other state once they realize what's happening.
People of Florida, because this is where I live, I'm not so concerned about the state of California because I pretty much gave up on them when I left.
Well, what I would say is, look, if you want to look into a window into the future, then go look at California. And you know why you left, and that's some of the reasons why. I guarantee you that if something like this, a permissive policy like this, was to happen in Florida, the Florida that you know and love right now would not be the Florida you know and love in 5 years. So, and especially when you look at a constitutional amendment that you're going to live with for a very long time.
Yeah. And I just know I got to protect my kids until they can protect themselves and make good choices.
I work with an organization called learnaboutsam.org.
Learn about what?
Learn About Sam, sam.org, which is smart approaches to marijuana, which is really looking at, I so tire of this extreme debate on the two ends. I would rather people come together in the middle and find out what we can agree upon, and that's what SAM is all about. Learn about sam.org.
Yeah.
So go
check it out. Learnaboutsam.org. Anything else you want to say?
I just thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak, and good luck out there, Florida.
Yeah, good luck, man.